Hi, my name is Kate Hanch. My pronouns are she and her, and I am blessed to serve as one of the associate pastors here at First. Today is part 2 of my conversation with Hannah Shanks on mental health and social media. And just as a reminder, Hannah holds a master's in social work from St. Louis University. She's a writer, speaker, and facilitator and curriculum developer on issues of faith, equity, community, and justice. She is also a lay leader in the United Methodist Church and is the chair of the Rules and Procedures Committee at the Missouri Conference level. Her book, This Is My Body, Embracing the Messiness of Faith and Motherhood, focuses on doing theology from the body and embracing trauma and identity and hope rooted in the incarnation. Hannah is an accidental clergy spouse who is doing pandemic life in a parsonage with a pastor, 2 dogs, and a kindergartner. Most of her hobbies have been nerfed due to social distancing, so she has transferred her interest to houseplants and baking. I hope you will be blessed by Hannah as I have in this conversation. So how do I know when sometimes it's hard to tell, how do I know when my mental health is negatively impacted by my use of social media?
Sure. I'd say you can do a little bit of a social media audit, and there are different ways to engage that. So a lot of folks I know have a weekly social media Sabbath, whether that's only for a few hours or whether it's for a whole day. If you've never taken one before, though, I recommend, if you want to know about how you're engaging with social media, turn it all off and see how you feel for 2 hours, 4 hours, a whole day, and let that experience inform you. If you find that you feel a lot more present and engaged with where you are and the people around you, then that's, probably a good sign you should reduce your use some, that your use may be harming you. If you feel more isolated, if you feel like the people around you who may not know about one of your identities or who just cannot get it because they're not like you in a particular way, if that leaves you feeling more wounded or more alone, then you may need a daily social media connection to help you feel less alone, less isolated, less scared. This is, again, why we can't really make a prescription for every single person about 2 hours of media a day. It really largely depends on who you are. So one way to audit is to just back off and see what your body and mind tell you. Another is to look at your feeds with a slightly more critical eye and ask yourself, who is present on my feeds versus who is missing? So if you're engaging with a lot of people who you already know and have connection with, and you have strong connections, like they love you, they support you, if you needed to go have a hard conversation with that person, you could, right? That's probably a pretty strong audit. If instead you look at your feed and it's a whole lot of people you have very tenuous connections with, it's people you're engaging more because you kind of admire or want to be like them, but you don't know them really, that may mean you're more apt to start that comparison game or that aspiration game, and you're not going to be as content after you leave your social media. And then last, ask yourself again that why question of, when I scroll through my feeds, what am I being invited to do? And that, I don't mean what are you being sold? Everybody's selling something, but I mean, if there's a post, what is it inviting you to do? I follow a lot of body positive feeds, right? So I see a lot of different people in sometimes a lot of clothes and sometimes not a lot of clothes, but they're positioned in such a way where I'm not being asked to consume them or the products that they're posing with. I'm being asked to see them as human beings and honor their created body. And that engagement is very different than like a bikini post that is trying to ask me to buy a diet pill. So what am I being invited to do by what's present in front of my eyes? And then when I post, what am I inviting others to do? Am I inviting them to view my life? Am I inviting them to be thoughtful? Or am I sharing a meme or a post that kind of like, it's about those other people over there, or it's because I'm very afraid, or it's because I'm very angry and I want other people to validate the fact that I'm afraid or angry. That probably is not going to help in the way that I want it to. It's just going to give me those dopamine hits.
Yeah. Again, very helpful.
I try to be hopeful.
Yes, I mean, it's convicting. It's making me rethink, and maybe reimagine how I participate in social media. What are some healthy practices for social media, and then how can we cultivate wellness through social media?
Mm-hmm. Again, I think healthy practices are related to who you follow or who you engage with on social media, how you engage and what you share. And then there is a time aspect available as well. So as far as who and how you follow, I think that you do want to be intentional about who you engage with. And the questions I ask myself are based on who I'm following. Is this helping me see myself and other people accurately? That's why I follow a lot of voices from various marginalized identities. It's why I follow a lot of fat liberation folks. It's why I follow people from around the world, because I know that it is much easier for me to have a stereotype of folks, or for my own viewpoint to be reinforced over and over again if a whole bunch of people are just absent from my social media table. So I try to be very careful about who I bring in addition to people I know. And my question is always, is this going to help me see myself and other people accurately? And my measuring stick for accurate is as a beloved child of God, whose experience has something to tell me about myself, God, and the world. That's a lot of it. So I don't follow a ton of really big influencers, not because they're like horrible people, but because they don't help me see myself accurately. Or I follow them just because I know I really love their shoes, and that's the only reason I'm there is for the shoe content. Like, that's fine too. So that's about who and how you follow. The next is about how I engage and how I post. I feel the pressure to like produce timely content all the time. All the time. Do I produce timely content? I do not, my friends. I have learned that is sort of white noise related to my way of engaging with social media. And it's because I value people who offer really prescient thoughts about the big things on people's minds that day. I'm not one of those people most of the time. Every once in a while, I'll have my day, but most of the time, I'm not a world expert in politics or pandemics or the NBA or anything else. And so unless I am sharing a thought just because I like my own thought, I don't need to jump into the discourse. I may just want to listen to a lot of really heartfelt, thoughtful, educated people. So it's okay that I'm a listener. It's okay to be an audience member in that. And then when I do make that post, I want it to be something that offers an invitation, whether to laugh with me about myself, because I do that a lot, whether to think about something differently, because I've recently been invited to think about something differently in my own life, or whether it's to lift up a voice that's been really helpful. Those are the things that I like to try to use my platform for. And then if you find yourself in a less than helpful pattern with regard to time, a lot of us fall into all or nothing thinking. Like, I can either stay in this pattern right now, or I can entirely delete Facebook. True, those are options, but there are others among them. I recently, after a lot of overwhelm with pandemic life, noticed that I probably needed more distance from social media. But I did not completely log out. I took the actual apps off of my phone which meant that I either needed to hop on from a computer, which I use less in my daily life than a phone, or that I had to log in through my phone's browser. And these are ugly things if you're using a browser instead of an app. Just the layout is ugly. It's terrible. It's not as much of an enjoyable thing to use. So you get less brain hacking chemicals from them. So this is my way of striking back against the dopamine and serotonin hits. So you could try something like that. You could try unfollowing folks if you're finding that their posts are inviting you to engage with a part of yourself that is not a part that you want to have more practice. I want to practice getting better most of the time. Some folks' posts invite me to practice parts of myself that I don't need practice in. I'm already plenty snarky on my own. I don't need more invitations to snarkiness. I don't need more invitations to throw darts at people. I do that well enough on my own without practice. So if I find that someone's posts have what on any platform are inviting me to do more of that, that's when I tend to hit that unfollow or snooze button, because I can't deal with that in a way that serves my purpose, right? So those are my ideas related to that. I'm sorry, that felt long-winded.
I think it's helpful for our well, it's helpful for me, and I imagine it will be helpful for some of our people. Any last comments on social media and faith in particular, or mental health and wellness? And if not, that's fine.
No, I would just say I think it really depends on where you're listening from, but I think that there are a lot of voices that exist to say that social media is a slippery slope inviting us to change our faith or leave our faith or any number of things. And for me, I've found the exact opposite, that social media has instead given me an opportunity to hear so many different people fighting so hard to connect with themselves and with God in a world that would prefer they do neither. It has given me an opportunity to learn how behavior that I have had as a person of faith and as a church member has been harmful to others, even if I did not intend it to be. I have learned better ways to talk to God and about God with other people, thanks to the voices I've been able to hear from social media. So, for example, I've learned about survivors of church abuse, and learned how there are things that I say that feel innocuous to me because they were never weaponized against me, but that can be really, really difficult for other people to overcome. And you know what? It costs me nothing to change the way I say something, because the way I say something is not the hard and fast gospel of Jesus Christ. It's just the way I like to talk. So I've been able to build safer spaces and better connections because of that. And I think if your social media is inviting you to do things like that, you can absolutely view it as a discipleship tool. You can, and you should.
Yeah.
As far as mental health goes, it's just always going to be about tuning back into yourself and how your body and how your emotions are reacting. So like I said, I can feel in my body when I get overwhelmed with social media, the same feeling I get if I'm in a really loud party where everyone is talking over each other. And it's not necessarily nice talking over each other. It's like an argument at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And I'm sort of like, I will eat my pie in the other room. If that's how you feel, then you need to do the equivalent of taking your pie and eating it in the other room. You need to hop off of that app and just know that you need some quiet time to decompress.
That has been incredibly helpful, Hannah. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us. And I'm grateful for your ministry, both as an author and as a social worker, but as a person of faith in our and to our church and the whole Missouri Conference. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would like to close with a prayer, and this is adapted by Sarah Rudolph, who's a Jewish educator. And one of the great things about social media is also we get to hear prayers from other voices and have them inform us. So with that in mind, let us pray. Dear God, let me say things that matter, not just say them to matter. Let me not lose sight of one value in the pursuit of another. Help me to see truth within the noise, to reflect before reacting, to hear before speaking. Hold me when the pace of social media threatens to pull me under. And dear God, let me say the right things with the right motivation of heart, and let it make a difference in accordance with your will. Amen.
Amen.